Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Hello, viewers and listeners. This is your daily Creekside Chats with successful multifamily investors. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest started an after-school program focused on leadership development that he scaled to serve over 9,000 Los Angeles kids on a daily basis. After 16 years, he sold the business. He then took the capital from the sale to use as the seed money to launch Break of Day Capital, his multifamily real estate investment company. To date, his investment company holds over 1,700 doors. Our guest has much more to share with us, so please welcome Gary Lipsky. Gary, welcome to the show today. It's really a pleasure to have you. Let's start out here with if you could just tell the listeners how it is that you came to be an entrepreneur. Some people just seem to pick it up naturally, and then others, some of us like me, have to learn it. So was it just something in your blood, or was it something you actually intentionally developed?
Yeah, I mean, it was in my blood, from a young age. I started shoveling driveways and auto detailing cars. And I started a business in college. We did a restaurant delivery service, kind of like DoorDash. So I was, 20 at the time. I graduated college. I started another one of those. So it was always in my mindset to do something on my own or with others, but not working for other people and kind of being in control of my own destiny. And I don't know if that was naive or just, I don't know what that was, but it was definitely a part of me at a young age.
At a very young age. So when did you start shoveling snow? How old were you?
Oh, I mean, just, growing up, I mean, probably 8, 9 years old. Wow. And even older. Yeah. And we go around, the blocks and just, and help out other people. And, hey, to make, $10, $20 to shovel snow is like, that's great,
Yeah, that's pretty good money for a little 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of initiative too. And that's unusual for an 8-year-old kid. I have, I teach psychology, and I do this thing. It's a demonstration of critical thinking skills, and fill the glass of water up to the very, very top of the brim. And then I ask the students, how many pennies can you put in that glass of jar before it spills over? And they usually guess around 4 or 5 or 6 or so at most. But you can put in about 20 or 30. So all the students are pretty surprised about this. And one time, I don't know how many times I've done this, but this one student, after we finished it, he goes, I'm going to make a lot of money off that tonight. Never dawned on me, but so I go, oh my God, we've got an entrepreneur in this class. Outside of taking advantage of people's ignorance, I thought, well, it's a pretty good idea there. But no, that doesn't come naturally for me. But some people, it seems like it was a natural skill there. Did you have were your parents entrepreneurs, or brothers, sisters, or aunts, uncles, or anybody?
So business was in my family blood. Actually, my great grandfather was an entrepreneur, not a very good one, according to my mother. But he started a bunch of businesses, a bar and something else. My grandfather was a CPA and a lawyer. My dad was a CPA. So, I mean, they weren't really starting their own businesses, but they had that kind of business mindset,
Yeah. Okay. So there was some modeling, but not necessarily a whole lot. Well, so you started your first business in college while you were still in college, and you did well at that, and then you developed the same business following that. How long were you in that in the food delivery business there?
It was a little over a year, but I grew old of it fast. And my entrepreneur teacher in college said, you've got to do something that you're really passionate about. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, like when you're young, you think about just making money, and delivering food grew tired pretty fast. It's just more widgets. And we didn't have a vision to really grow it tremendously like, the DoorDashes of today. So it grew stale fast. We just weren't passionate about it. And so we ultimately sold it. And at that point I got into, I had been doing some film production before that, but I was an independent producer. I co-produced 3 lower budget films in Los Angeles after that.
Well, that's a tough business to break into. You've really got to have some ambition to do anything in that business. But yeah, I can see why you'd have a lot of passion for that, particularly being a creative individual like you are yourself. So you went from filmmaking to what came after filmmaking?
So then my next business was, I was writing a script with a buddy of mine, and he worked with schools, did music education. And so I was looking to, pay my bills at the time, because film is like, it's great when you're working and not, when you're not. And I had some scripts in development, and but it wasn't paying much bills. So he introduced me to a school, and they said, we need a swimming instructor. And I said, oh, I've got one for you. So I went on Craigslist, hired a swim instructor, and then I was off and running on this new business venture. And by the time I sold it, after 16 years, we were working with 9,000 students daily throughout Southern California. We had over 700 employees, and just making a huge impact on the youth in this area. So it was really good work. I had been doing it a long time, and I had been investing in real estate, and just at that time I was ready for my next venture.
Well, a lot of successes in your life, but some things people don't like to talk about. But if we look at only people's successes, it's not a very good way to get to know people, because it just isn't a very realistic look at a person's life. So can you share with us some of your setbacks, some of your disappointments in life, and what are some of the things you might have learned from those?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So that business that I was so proud of, I did have a business partner, and that's one of the reasons why I sold it too. We didn't get along. We didn't see eye to eye, and it wasn't, it was both of our faults. And it starts with the beginning of having, setting expectations correctly and being able to have those difficult conversations. And we weren't having them, not until it was kind of late. I mean, we were growing, we were in the business, so we didn't take the time to really talk about what was working and what was not working. And that was a huge setback, and ultimately led to us splitting up. And so after that business, I really focused on all of my partnerships going forward to really have those tough discussions beforehand, to see if it was going to work, to see if we had the same values, to see if we want the same things, because it's hard. You get into a business with someone, you've got to make sure you're fully aligned, and not just at that moment in time, and you're excited about that, but it's can it last 10 years, 20, however long that business plan is, and even longer. Just like real estate, if you buy something, your business plan might just be 5 years, but can you sustain it? Does that model work for 10 years? And that was really important. That was one of my biggest lessons, and of having those tough conversations.
So was this your partner from the beginning of the endeavor, or did you bring her? I don't know what gender it was, but and after you had started the business, or were you together from the beginning?
I had started it and hired him as an employee, and he
Mm.
had a lot of really good experience working with kids in Boston, at-risk youth, doing adventure stuff, and that's where we kind of took the business. And so I needed him and formed a partnership without really thinking through all of the ramifications of that and what that looks like down the road. We just kind of jumped in and didn't have a buy-sell agreement or any of those tough discussions. It was more focused on the business plan and our revenue and that stuff. And we're talking years ago where wasn't so many online courses and things that are free resources.
Mm-hmm.
Just wasn't available to us, and I wasn't seeking out those resources. And so, actually, one of the other, really important lesson was find a mentor. There are lots of mentors out there. Some can be expensive, some might not cost anything.
Mm-hmm.
And finding a mentor will provide tremendous rocket fuel for your business.
That's true, and I suppose in all kinds of aspects of life.
Yeah.
But in any relationship, it's not just business partnerships. Those hard conversations are always the challenge, and I think you're right. I think that's what leads to the end of marriages. That's probably what leads to the end of business partnerships, because who wants to have those uncomfortable conversations? Nobody.
Yeah.
and yet you just have to have them. So in terms of that being a major setback in your life, what brought you to the conclusion that you had to end that relationship?
I wasn't feeling good about myself. I was frustrated, wasn't inspired. Again, we did great work, but I knew that the two of us together in that business just wasn't beneficial to either of us and of our employees. And we had been building up a really good executive team to take over. And so I thought it was best for me to step out and let them continue to grow, and I could take my next chapter. So I looked at it as a kind of win-win for all of us involved. And, it took a while to come up with a mutually agreeable buyout. But once we did, it was, I wish them the best, and I've helped them, and we've stayed in contact. And, I only want the best, for them to succeed and continue to do the good work. And I can focus on my next adventures as well.
Did you use mediators or attorneys, or how did you finally get down to end that relationship in a cordial way? You had to get down to those hard to ask discussions and questions. So how did you go about that?
Yeah, we were both in a business mastermind group that really that helped us to work through issues. But we had our own lawyers, but we didn't rely on them fully. You'll end up running up a bill and not getting anywhere. And I felt we kind of hit a stalemate. I mean, we had been kind of negotiating over almost 9 months, a year, and the lawyers do get in the way. So we had to come up with a plan that kind of worked for both of us. Would you be willing to buy or sell at this number? And we kept working on that, and that finally brought us to a conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to work out there. So I'm sure there were lots and lots of good lessons that actually came from that experience. And I'm sure you've been able to carry that over into your other endeavors. What do you consider to be your life's greatest purpose?
To make a difference. Whatever I'm involved in, to spread, goodness. I'm far from perfect, but every day I try to have more good, on that side of the column than than the bad, and just try to inspire others and bring out their best, and that makes me feel good. That inspires me, and hopefully it inspires others to do the same.
Right. So you've had lots of achievements in life, and a lot of things to be proud of and to celebrate. So how do you celebrate? What what are the milestones, and how do you honor those, and how do you actually celebrate them?
I've gotten better over time to celebrate those milestones, because I hit a milestone and be focused on the next one,
And the next, yeah.
and not taking the time to really celebrate it. I've gotten better. I'm still got a long ways to go, but obviously, when you set your goals, you've gotta celebrate it with the ones that you're closest with, your friends, your family, and make it special. Whether you're going out for dinner, do something to celebrate those wins, because that's the most important thing, to celebrate yourself, to celebrate others. That those are the things that gets us through these tough times.
Yeah. And so often we don't, it's always, there's another project waiting, there's another goal out there waiting, and we finish one and we move on to the next and forget to do that celebration there.
Yeah.
Well, when things are against you and it feels like the whole world is knocking you down and trying to keep you down there, what is it that you do to stay in the moment, stay positive, and keep your bearings about you and keep moving forward?
I'm an optimist. I get that from my father. So um, typically, I'm a positive person, looking, glasses half full, and knowing that no matter how bad I have it, someone has it worse. So I try to remember that, and so it's coming from a place of gratitude and thankfulness of what I've had. But we all have bad days, but I try to minimize that, and like, hey, you gotta keep putting one foot forward in front of the next. Even baby steps. It's not, you're not trying to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in one day. Take one baby step at a time, and keep building those victories, and keep gain momentum. Momentum is I'm a big sports guy, and so I definitely believe in momentum, and I could feel it in anything that I'm doing. If I can just gain a little momentum,
Mm-hmm.
now I'm a little bit more excited, and a little bit more excited every day, and propelling me forward.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So those little steps, we just talked about celebrating the achievements, but sometimes just that little step in each day is something to celebrate and be aware of. And in the example you gave of your major setback there, I can see how you said it took 9 months to actually pull that whole thing together. I can see that probably entailed a whole lot of that, just pushing through it each and every day and being grateful and thankful for making it through there. Um, so good examples there. How is it that you grow and develop psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually? And you can define spiritual however you want to define that, but in terms of what is it that takes you beyond yourself to really a higher purpose?
Yeah, I think reflection is key. Taking time to think about what's working, what's not working, what can you do better. That's really important to me. Whether it's, you know, outside going for a hike or walk to the beach, whatever it is, I try to take time every day to kind of think back and think about what, you know, did that conversation go as well as I wanted to? Was I empathetic enough to my child and you know, listen to their frustrations enough, and how can I do better next time with them and making them feel more confident and better self-esteem. You know, constantly working on these things to better myself and to be a better friend, father, companion to everyone in my life, you know.
Do you have an intentional practice?
No, I wouldn't define it as intentional, but I try to take moments every day, every week to do that. But I wouldn't say it's very defined, you know, and you know, but I'm very aware of it.
And you know, I think that reflects individual differences. Some people, in order to find those things, they really have to define a specific practice and really stay with it, and then others can be a little more casual about it. I find that I fall into that latter category. I just don't like regiment particularly well. So I I do it just like you do, on a kind of a casual basis, but on a continuous basis there. How do you measure your success?
I'm looking for wins, you know, not just for me, but for whoever else is involved. I put my goals out there, and certainly, I mean, there's a lot of goals I don't achieve, but each day I write out my goals, each week, each month, and I'm trying to hit them on a continual basis. So I'm constantly measuring, and you know, what you don't measure you won't achieve. So it's really important that you are putting things down that you want to achieve, so that you can see it, you can adjust, you can check in, and well, that method wasn't working, let me try something else. And so that's very important that you're constantly looking at your goals and measuring it. And you know, for everyone's going to have different success, and but yeah, for me, it's the measuring and you know, win-win for anyone involved in that.
Do you have a coach or someone who helps you hold yourself accountable, or do you self manage yourself?
Yeah, I was in Vistage, which is a business mastermind group for many years. Our group kind of we hang out together, and we help each other, but it's not a regimented thing anymore. We had some people in the group that were in there for 10 plus years, so they just didn't really need that hardcore I guess aspect of that group. I do have a business partner, and we do hold each other very accountable, which is good. And I feel like I hold myself accountable as well. I'm pretty good at knowing, you know, hey, am I lying to myself or not? Am I doing what I should be doing? And I also have some tight friends that we help each other be more accountable as well. And that's so important to have that group. You know, you're only as good as the average of your 5 closest people. So that's really important to have.
Yeah, I keep hearing that that the 5 closest people are who you're going to ultimately end up being like. And well, that's actually, that was one reason I started this podcast. That was my selfish reason, so that I can talk with successful people each and every day here. I think it does make a huge difference, and it certainly has made a big difference in my mood since I've gotten started on this. I really look forward to these conversations each and every day. We're coming to the end of our time here. I've got another question here, but before I go into that, why don't you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach me at gary@breakofdaycapital.com or visit my website. On our website, we have a free passive investors guide, and that's www.breakofdaycapital.com.
I like the name of your business there. It's inspiring. So the last question I have is, what would you like to have on your epitaph when you leave this earth?
That I made a positive difference in others. You know, I was a good person. I did well for others, and it's just as simple as that. You know.
Well, it sounds like you are living the life that you will be happy you lived. So this is your time. What closing remarks do you have for our viewers and our listeners?
Well, I guess I'd say we all have countless opportunities every single day to make a positive difference in not just your life, but in other people's lives. A smile, a hi, simple as that. Make a difference. You know, take advantage of those opportunities, and it will come back tenfold to you.
Very good. Thank you, Gary, for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.